Hi everyone, welcome back to Show Me Mo Vegan. I'm Wendy and today I'm back with another What I Eat in a Day fiber-fueled edition. Lately, I've been doing What I Eat in a Day videos showing you how you can follow different plant-based doctors. I've done one following Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen and another one following Dr. John McDougall's Starch Solution. I'll put a link to those videos so you can check them out. But today, we're talking plant points, a method used by Dr. Bulsiewicz, a gastroenterologist and the author of Fiber Fueled and the Fiber Fueled Cookbook, two books that I highly recommend. If you're just here to see the food, I've put chapters below so you can jump right on over to breakfast. Otherwise, let's talk about plant points. The concept is simple, and the purpose is to encourage you to eat more plants. That's basically it. Dr. B talks about how important fiber is, and not only that, but each plant has different kinds of fiber that's bound up with different nutrients, some of which we haven't even identified yet. But what we do know is that based on a study Dr. B talks about all the time, people who consume at least 30 different kinds of plants or more each week tend to have a healthier gut microbiome. So the goal of Plant Points is to try to get us up to 30 plants in a week. What I like about this method is that it meets everybody wherever they're at. So whether you're a seasoned pro at eating a plant-based diet or you're just getting ready to dip your toes in, you can use Plant Points to help you eat in a healthier way. If you are just starting out, Dr. B will emphasize going low and slow with the fiber. Oftentimes people think they have a food sensitivity to foods such as whole grains and beans because they may get some indigestion or even painful cramps when they eat those foods. But Dr. B will point out that if you're having those symptoms, it's probably actually a sign that you have an unhealthy gut microbiome. Instead of avoiding these foods completely, it's best to gradually add them into your diet, consistently eating a little bit every day. This will slowly build up the good gut bacteria that helps you digest those foods. It's sort of like exercising in the gym. You slowly build up your muscles, just like you're going to slowly build up those good gut bacteria. As you add more plants, your good gut bugs will reward you with anti-inflammatory chemicals that they produce. On the other hand, the fewer plants you eat, that allows the bad bacteria to overgrow, and they produce pro-inflammatory compounds, which we don't want. So how exactly do Plant Points work? Basically, you get 1 point for every unique plant that you eat in 1 week. So for example, if I eat spinach every day this week, I only get 1 plant point. But if I eat spinach today, kale tomorrow, and arugula the next day, that would count as 3 points. Since the goal is to increase our fiber intake, you don't want to cheat yourself when assigning plant points. What I mean is, each plant you eat should be eaten in a decent serving size. For example, if I eat a bowl of 10 bean chili, even though there are 10 different kinds of beans in that chili, I'm not going to count it as 10 plant points. You can see how that's cheating the system a little bit. Along the same lines, you only want to count whole plant foods. So for example, if I eat a handful of almonds, that would count as a plant point, but if I drink a glass of almond milk, that won't count because the fiber has been removed. In general, you can also count fresh herbs and spices like fresh parsley and cilantro or fresh turmeric and ginger, but the dried counterparts won't count for plant points. These are just general guidelines. There are no hard and fast rules. Again, the main goal is simply to get you eating more plants. And the plant points can just be a fun way to compete with your family or even just with yourself. So that's the basics of Plant Points. And Dr. B recommends trying to shoot for 30 different plants in a week. But I've been at this for a while, so I usually get pretty close to that number in a single day. Can I do it today? Stay to the end of the video when I tally up my points for the day. I've been on a wild blueberry kick lately, so that's all I've been using for the last couple of weeks on my oats. And today is a rolled oats day. Normally I batch cook steel cut oats on Sunday, which lasts me through Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday I do rolled oats. It's Saturday, so it's a rolled oats day, and I also chop up a date for some sweetness. I'll microwave this and throw some flaxseed on top, and that's it for my oatmeal. And then I also have a smoothie. I went grocery shopping this morning, so I pre-prepped a little bit of my smoothie. I've got some celery and cucumbers that I already chopped up, and I have tons of spinach, mango, a banana, and some soybeans. And then I also have all of my little add-ins measured out. I use amla powder, turmeric, ginger, black pepper, and a little bit of dulse flakes to get some iodine. For lunch, I'm doing a repeat of what I had yesterday, which was really easy and delicious. So while I was prepping my bowl yesterday, I started prepping for today as well, just so that my meal would come together even quicker. So I started with some sorghum and rye berries that I batch cooked earlier this week, and then I added some veggies. I have some chopped yellow bell pepper, red onion, and tomatoes. And then I recently found this oil-free hummus at the store. This one is a roasted bell pepper, and it's so delicious. So I'm just simply gonna use that to add flavor to my dish. So I'm adding a couple big scoops of that, and I'll mix that in. And then I'm adding loads of parsley. And by the way, technically the bowl that I'm using is a serving bowl, so that just gives you an idea. It's actually a rather large bowl. When you're eating a whole food vegan diet, you can eat a much larger volume of food because everything has really low calorie density, so you can eat a lot more. And then I'm gonna fill this bowl up even more, so I'll push that over to the side. I'm just going to add a quick little salad here. I'm part of a CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture, which means I get fresh produce from a local farmer each week, and we got some lovely lettuce and radishes. So I'll just slice some of that up, and then I'm topping this with some raisins. I love putting raisins on my salad. And then I'm throwing a few pumpkin seeds on top of everything, and then also adding a little bit of sauerkraut. I don't eat sauerkraut all that often, but I've been wanting to try to eat a little bit more just to get some of those good probiotics. And then I also just drizzled a little bit of balsamic vinegar on top of my greens over here. Then for dessert, I have half a Jersey sweet potato that I pre-cooked, and I just mashed it up in a bowl here. And now I'm adding some frozen cherries and a date on top. I know it might sound kind of weird, but I think it's really delicious to have the cherries and the dates with the Jersey sweet potato. And I heat the sweet potato up, but I leave the cherries frozen, so it's a nice little temperature contrast. And I'm topping it off with a few chia seeds. For dinner, I'm having breakfast pizza, and I have a video from a long time ago. It's one of my first videos showing how I make this, but basically it's a tofu scramble, and I put that on top of a whole wheat pizza crust with a vegan cheesy sauce on top. I'll put a link to that video, and I'll also put a link to the recipe down in the description box below. Along with that, I'll have another little side salad as well as an apple. And I'm also having a date and a Brazil nut. I like to have Brazil nuts every once in a while just to get some extra selenium. And my favorite way to eat it is to simply put it inside a medjool date. So I'll just open the date up, take the pit out, and replace it with a Brazil nut. This is a really great easy snack or a nice little treat to have after dinner. And then I'm also taking B12 and vitamin D. I recently got my blood work done, and my vitamin D was a little low again, and I think that's because I have not been going outside very much lately, so I really need to get outside to get my sunshine vitamin. But in the meantime, I'm definitely going to be supplementing that. And then of course, it's important to get your B12, especially if you are totally plant-based or vegan. I feel like it's been a while since I did a houseplant update. If you've watched some of my other What I Eat in a Day videos, I've shown my houseplants, which I used to just keep here on my little kitchen table. A while ago, I moved the big spider plant over to this plant stand that used to be my grandma's. And just recently, I got this little shelf for my baby spider plants and my aloe plant there down on the bottom. But these babies are getting pretty big now too, so I might have to repot them already. The time has come to tally up my points, and my grand total today was 29 plant points. As you can see, once you're fully immersed in a 100% plant-based diet, it's really easy to get a diversity of plants in. Once again though, I want to emphasize that it's not important to get quite as much variety as I do in a day. Especially if you're just starting out. Shoot for just 1 or 2 new plants each week. Even though fiber is a really important part of our diet, if we've been neglecting it for a while, the last thing we want to do is overload our gut with too much fiber and cause some digestive upset. This might just discourage you from continuing on. So again, we want to start low and slow. Just like you don't start with the heaviest weights in the gym if you haven't worked out in years, you don't want to eat all the fiber all at once if you've been neglecting it for any length of time. And you don't need to feel bad about this. Only 3% of Americans actually get the recommended amount of fiber. And even the recommended amount probably isn't as much as we should be getting. So if you've been avoiding the fiber, there's no need to feel ashamed. 97% of America is right there with you. But you can start to turn it around today, simply by counting your plant points. And see if you can get 1 more point tomorrow than you did today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.